This is breaking news with Brad Bearclaw. On today.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Off the Reservation, a show that has found their new favorite Lincoln. I'm your number one wizard, Mal.
I'm Al.
And I'm the son of Picasso.
And today we have a very special guest, Lincoln Mark, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Lincoln Mark. Hi, everybody.
Hey, yeah, and so we got him in. Let's see. Is there buttons, more buttons? Nope. Yeah, so we got him in here. We had some few questions for him. I think that's the cool thing is we connected through Instagram, and you slid into our DMs and let us know that as the kids say nowadays, and let us know that you were interested. And I think that's the cool thing is like our show has hit a point in which like we can have guests on.
You can connect.
Yeah. And I think that's the cool thing about social media in general is like the ability for natives who normally you're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but like that put us in a position to where we could be in touch with one another.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool. TikTok stalking you. I don't know if that's the way you would say it. Like looking at your videos, getting to know you through your videos. I guess. Why don't you go ahead and I guess give us an overview. Your elevator pitch on why you're the coolest.
Definitely. I don't think I'm the coolest.
The best Lincoln.
Just a little bit of disclaimer. Throughout that entire intro of you talking, my stomach is growling because we started talking about Indian tacos. My stomach is growling now, and I'm like, oh, I hope the mics are not that sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the problem. We all get together, we get hungry. That's how that rolls.
Like, it's growling right now. All right. Everyone. Well, thank you guys for allowing me to be here. I honestly, I think this place is cool. Like, I'm happy to be on the podcast. But I'm Lincoln Mark, Navajo, born and raised Shiprock, New Mexico. I graduated from Shiprock High School, and then in 2008, let me just say, I was never the best student. Right? I failed, and I was like a good C to C minus student. So when I applied for UNM, they're like, no, we can't accept you. I'm like, oh man, completely destroyed me. Yeah. So I weaseled my way into getting into an Indian Bridge summer program, and upon the successful completion of that, I could then attend UNM, and I did. Right.
Yeah.
Long story short, for me to get my undergraduate degree, it was kind of turmoil because my father died from a drunk driving accident in that. So I kind of took some time off from that. But I finally graduated in 2017. I started in 2018, right? So it was like a decade, right? And then after that, I was so motivated to want to do something. So I was like, let me go to PLSI. It's a Pre-Law Summer Institute program over at UNM School of Law. I did that, passed it, and I was like, all right, I want to try and get into law school. And I applied to law schools, and I wasn't being accepted. And keeping in mind, like I'm true to myself. I'm a solid C to low C student. So in law school, that doesn't cut it, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't get into those, but they're like, oh, well, there's this new Masters of Law program here at UNM, and we think you'd be great for that. I'm like, cool. So I did it. Did it, first Native American student to do it in 1 year.
Yeah.
My degree in that is in concentration in federal Indian law.
Okay.
So after I completed that, I applied to other places, to other law schools, and then the University of South Dakota, we'd love to have you here. So
nice.
I dropped everything, took 2 days to get out there, and then boom, I was out there. Different experience, on how the other native lives as opposed to here. So
Yeah.
it's been an eye-opening.
I think that would be like one of my, like, right now is one of my bigger questions is like, I mean, with like I said in the beginning, social media allowing us to glimpse into the lives of natives that aren't here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I can go down the street and see how other natives live. I can go out, towards the pueblos or the res and see how
30
they're
minutes
living.
away.
Yeah. Whereas, like, and I know that situation because I've grown up in that situation, growing up in Albuquerque, being surrounded, but like, like even our moccasins are the same. I saw your video. You had the moccasin boots.
Yeah.
Oh
But-
yeah, those were really cool.
Yeah.
Those are sick.
Yeah.
But like, learning like, like the moccasins are different in northern, United States or even into Canada, knowing those
definitely.
kinds of things. So like, I mean, I guess that would be like what would your highlights be of like seeing North Dakota versus like natives versus like Southwest natives?
So in my job, right, I've been essentially privy to other tribes in how they practice their cultures, how they eat their Indian tacos.
Yeah.
They always took offense that I said Navajo taco. And I'm like, well, I'm Navajo. What are you talking about? It's not it's not a different kind of a taco. It's just Navajo taco. I'm eating it.
Yeah.
I'm Navajo, So
Once it passes these lips, it's Navajo.
it's Navajo. And anyways, we'll get to that. But it's you have to just admire the diversity. As diverse this country is, right? There's even so much more diverse cultures, even within Native American of Native America, right?
Yeah.
So when I see these people and how they practice their cultures, it's just like I feel like I shouldn't be enjoying this because I feel like I'm not worthy.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like, well, how else are other people going to learn and know about this and,
Yeah.
and spread this and say, hey, look how rich and diverse and just robust we as indigenous people living on one continent are just so different, right?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things like I love, like one of the things that we really get into, well, I personally get into, is like our conspiracy theories and things like that, or even like the urban legends of, like, for us, I don't know, the Navajo witches.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like how the term, skinwalker has been shared. Now it's like made its way out to the East Coast.
Mainstream, yeah.
Yeah. And therefore the idea of like, okay, now this is what it is, and then being Navajo, being like, no, this is what this means. And so like I can understand like the Navajo taco conversation of like, no, it's Indian taco, no, it's Navajo taco, no, it's Bannock, all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get it, but we're all talking about the same thing. But in reality, the best way to call it is Navajo taco. And you take it and you fold it in the middle and then you eat it, or as our other Najoni Days video, you rip it up and you flip it over and make it like a Frito pie.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Well, so tell us, Lincoln, what's your method when it comes to Navajo tacos?
It honestly depends on the fry bread, right? Like if
Yes!
so
Okay.
it depends on the fry bread. Like if it's a tough fry bread, I have to utensil it, right? Or if it's like a nice soggy one where I can actually mold it
Yeah,
up
yeah.
and then roll it into maybe like a burrito,
Burrito.
or fold it in half. And it honestly just depends on the taco itself. Because I was in South Dakota and they make their Indian tacos. And I'm not knocking anyone. It's just my observation, right?
Mhm.
I've seen how they make their Indian tacos, and it looks like a pastry, and not like good,
Yeah.
It's just not
like sopapilla.
It's not like
it's cakey. It's thick in the middle. They use sugar, powdered milk, and some other things in it, and it's just thick. And I remember I was trying to cut into it, and I broke the plastic silverware, and everyone started laughing at me. And I'm like, my fry bread doesn't bulge in the middle. You know what I mean? It doesn't bulge in the middle. And I apologize. 'Cause I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend that, but like, this is not how, like, oh yeah, you guys just you soak it in grease. I'm like, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
That's the crisp,
That's how you get it nice and crunchy, yeah.
I've had the fry bread the same way in Oklahoma. They make, and like it's like almost like a dough ball, like and you're like, man,
what do
you need to like send a contingency group out to the Navajo Fair,
definitely.
have some people watch, and then take it back and fix your fry bread stuff.
Y'all need to fix yourselves.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No. I mean, all bread is delicious. So when you come down to it, I don't miss the bread. Skimp out on the bread.
Man, there's a lady up the block from my house that sells has a fry bread stand. And like one day I was out doing yard work and I could smell it. And I was like, oh man.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Dude, okay. So let's side tangent. So this year I wanted to go get more firewood for my house. And you were so kind, son of Picasso, to lend me out your son.
My eldest son.
Your eldest son. And he came with me to help load firewood. And I feel like the traditional uncle way, I paid him. He got paid. On our way back, we ended up seeing a taco stand, a Navajo taco stand.
Yeah.
And so we pulled over, and I was like, "Hey, man, let's get some fry bread. We'll chow down before we head back to Albuquerque and start, doing the second half of unloading the firewood." And we get up to the lady, and I'm like, "Let's get 3 fry breads. Let's get some cookies. Let's get some." Because she just had like a spread, and I'm telling you, like, you gotta look out for this lady if you're headed up towards Jemez. But she had like a spread of stuff. She had like burgers. Like, I'm talking.
What?
Yeah, dude, I want to go back.
That's like 15 minutes from my house.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, you gotta check her out.
All right.
But yeah, I go to reach into my wallet. I gave all my money to my nephew. And so
He's bought me.
so I'm like, "Hey, you got that like $20, right?" And he's like, "Man, I go and help you, and now I'm getting robbed." And I was like, "Man, you're eating too. Come on, just pay for it, and I'll pay you back."
Oh my gosh, and that's how he is. He'll roast you too.
Yeah,
he's funny. He'll like
going out there buying firewood, and turns out you're broke all this time. I was like, "I'm not broke, man.
It's payroll."
So you're the new guy. You gotta pay. You gotta pay for the first lunch. Come on."
He had fun though. He came back. He told us about your adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's the thing. So like being like a growing up as like an urban native.
Yeah.
Like I cherish like those things that like I've heard as like traditional kind of things, like from the stories that I've heard as a like native born on the res. You grow up like having to do those things, like go gather up firewood and splitting the firewood and doing those things. And so like even though I live in the city, I'm like I want to experience as much, I guess, like res traditions as possible. But I mean, like, I can only do so much growing up like that. And I think that's like for us a big thing that we've always cherished when we get to experience those kinds of things. And for us, I feel like one of the things that we've really come up against is being like, you're an urban native, so therefore you're not a real native. And you guys went to, I guess they would say, like, white people's schools and colonized schools and all this other stuff. So therefore, you didn't learn your language. You didn't have like a Navajo class. You didn't
forgotten Navajo.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I only know like so many words in Navajo.
Yeah.
I tried to go take a class in college to try to learn more, and it helped me at least be able to like sound it out
Yeah.
if I'm reading it. But as far as like understanding what it means, I mean, I have a Navajo Bible, and so I'm like sitting there with my other Bible with my King James, and I'm trying to like, okay, that's Nanish,
Cross-referencing the words. And
yeah, and you know, that's what I do when I'm staying up late and contemplating life and everything, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to, you know, gain some of that back, and that's been a big popular thing nowadays is natives trying to reclaim their language, and you know, that's what I feel has become like a really important thing, I guess, for me. I don't know.
Let's talk about that real quick. When you talk about like natives wanting to reclaim their identities,
Heritage?
right? Their heritage, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Is that something? I mean, as someone who grew up in Shiprock, how do you feel about that? I know I saw a video on your TikTok talking about some other guy that's like comes down really hard on like other people groups, but I guess he's now also been attacking like, you know, other natives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do you feel about like, do you look at people like me funny? Be like, oh, you're not really native. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's difficult, right? It depends on the context of these things because, you know, we're living in a world where we're trying to preserve our traditions, but at the same time, the world is progressing and modernizing faster than tribes and what we would hold and think of as traditions, right? You know, we want to preserve and practice our ceremonies, but at the same time, like, you know, modern medicine beckons us to seek actual things that might help us more than what our traditional things would do. So there's like a weird balance. When it comes to people criticize, and I get this all the time, you know, people would call me, I remember I got into an argument. I try to steer away from arguments because it's just like, it's pointless. We're both not going to agree. Let's just, you know, cut it, right? But she got so mad and she goes like, well, I'm not, what'd she say? I don't have any white privilege, like, and then she stopped herself. And I'm like, what? Like me? I'm Navajo. I'm minority of the minority in America.
Yeah.
Right? You know, Native Americans are the last, sometimes not even
Oh, we're
accounted
something
for.
else.
Yeah, we're the other. We're not even accounted for in statistics, you know?
Yeah.
Up
Census
until
man,
recent,
don't come through here.
So when it comes to people that make those kind of criticisms, it bothers me because it's like, well, it's not a competition, right? You know, on one hand, these are the same people on their social medias posting saying inclusivity, you know, respect and love all and peace and harmony and hajo and, you know, ke and everything.
Yeah.
And these are the same people that will stand in front of you and say, you know what? You weren't born here. You're not true native. You're not true Navajo, right? Your family still lives here, but that's it. You know, your what's that? The belly button thing is not buried out there, right? So it's just like, when have those been the qualifications, right? Yeah. And it also goes back to the idea of, you know, what does it mean to be Native American in America? For me, I always say I'm Native. Well, I'm an American Native American.
Yeah,
that's what I am. I'm a person of two different worlds. That also is contingent on the idea of what is a Native American to a tribe. You have people like, we all know who this person is, but I'm not going to name this person, in Congress saying that they're Native American. I am point something Native American. yeah. And, you know, just a whiff of the Native American blood. I'm Native American. It's like, no. In reality, what that does, it undermines the true political and legal sovereignty of actual people who are registered with their tribes.
Yeah.
And again, that's also a controversial topic because people are like, oh, those are the Dawes rolls. Those are colonizing because you're using blood. Well, when you talk about that, we need to be honest with ourselves, right? You have tribes, you know, the 570 plus tribes that are leaning to blood quantum, and then you have the other ones that are leaning to descendancy. If you look at tribes that are more descendancy, of course you're going to have more people joining those roles, those tribes, because all they need to do is point to a lineage and say, I am from that family line of being Native American.
Yeah.
But again, the modern Native American will say, oh, but that person doesn't look Native American at
Yeah,
all, right?
enough.
Yeah.
And then you go back to someone who is like from the res, born and raised. Their CIB says 4/4 Navajo,
Yeah.
and then it's just like you look more Navajo or you look more Native American than this person. So it's just like it's a balance, but at the same time, you know, it's gonna boil down to what does it truly mean to be Native American in America, and we just don't know. None of us are prepared to actually get down to the nitty gritty of it.
It's hard to, I guess, to define because as much as like we've all experienced those conversations
Yeah.
of like, you're not really native because you don't speak your language.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, I go out and learn my language. Okay, but you're not really native because you didn't live in the struggle.
You didn't butcher.
You didn't have to butcher. You didn't have to walk 100 miles to get groceries.
Yeah.
You've never been on walking along the freeway with your thumb out trying to
Yeah.
hitchhike from Window Rock to Gallup. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? And so I'm like, but how does that make you native? Like, how
Yeah.
does struggle make you native? And you know, you get it seen reflected in, like, you know, in hip hop. We've talked about that. Like,
Yeah.
you're not really hip hop if you've never had to struggle. You didn't grow up in the PJs, man. You know.
You don't do the real handshake thing.
Yeah. like, and we. That was our last.
That's what I was like, I'm just shaking your hand. I know that. You know?
I'm like, here.
It's kind of funny, like you were saying that, like my son, like, you know, he's, you know, raised in the suburbs, but like you go to dab him up, something like he just knows, like he's just and him.
That dude's more street than me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
He's
know.
funny.
He's a good
Yeah,
one.
I mean, personally, I think if you weren't in the theater to see Killers of the Flower Moon last night, then you know you're not native. I'm
You're
sorry.
not native.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You should have been there opening night.
I couldn't find a babysitter, man.
Oh man, have you guys seen the top TikTok videos for the white reviewers who went and said they left the movie
I
halfway?
haven't.
So I was just
Oh,
scrolling
really?
through this morning, and like it just popped up on my timeline, and like there was a few guys that were like, "This is the worst movie ever. I left halfway. This is just a diatribe of just ridiculousness," and like went on and on and on about how it was just the most boringest movie ever. And I was like, "Oh man, I gotta check this out." But you know, I don't know.
I want to go see it.
They did happen to be Caucasian, so I'm like, I don't know, you know, if it was the white guilt that got to them and why they left, or you know, I haven't seen the movie yet, so
Yeah.
I can't.
And that, I think that's so listening to the conversation that was it Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio, when they were talking about the movie and how they wanted to portray it. Now I haven't seen it,
Mhm.
so bear that in mind. But I have read the book, and it definitely seems like when the book, it was more geared towards the formation of the FBI in the earlier stages of it. It gave what was happening to the Native Americans as like facts and figures,
Yeah.
as well as like, you know, a titillating true crime story. That's kind of what I'm into. And so that happening, the conversations that I heard that Martin Scorsese have were more of like, I don't want it to be just facts and figures. I want it to like show the progress of like of this guy, what occurred, how he handled it, give it more of a human element.
Yeah.
And I could see how that could lend towards white guilt, because I mean it's the same conversation that Native Americans have been having with Euro Americans for a long time.
Yeah.
Is, hey, you did some really messed up stuff. Like, your people group and your government have done really messed up things to us. You know, we would like an apology.
Yeah.
And Euro Americans fall into that to the normal human thing of defensiveness of like, dude, that wasn't even me. That was my great grandfather. You know, he was the he was the oil baron. You know, it wasn't me. Like, why should I have to atone for the sins of my fathers?
Yeah.
And in a perfect world, nobody should have to atone for the sins of their fathers.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't take away the fact that history is history.
Yeah.
And it's already been written. We can't unwrite it. But we have to figure out what we're going to do going on in the future.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, and we've talked about this with one of our other guests, Dave, and I mean, that guy's like a wealth of knowledge. He knows like all kinds of things. But one of the things he had really pushed was like, we can't wallow in the sins of the past. We need to we can acknowledge them and we can say that they happened, but in order to have a more unified future, we need to forgive, offer forgiveness, as well as apologize for the things that we've done, or that our people have been a part of. And I think that's been a big situation, and it's a good conversation to be having at this point.
It was because we even kind of disagreed. I'm like, my opinion about reparations was completely different than his.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just that's how we see life as Native men, and it's okay to disagree.
And I think that was the conversation that we were having, because a lot of people have this idea of reparations being monetary.
Yeah.
And if you look at it at the moment, Native Americans are kind of living the monetary reparation route. I mean, we're all still paying for it because the government can't, milk a dry udder.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we get the free health care.
Yeah.
Through IHS, Indian Health Services. We get a few other things, but the things that we feel that needs to be done is the healing. And how does that healing look? How do we heal from the trauma?
One of the things was more of my focus was on the mental trauma.
Yeah.
And the I guess mental health that needs to I guess the infrastructure be put into place to help that healing process take place.
Are you talking about intergenerational trauma?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And when I first heard the term, generational trauma, of course I try not to roll my eyes, but then you actually see the struggles, and again, I've seen the same kinds of issues happening, whether if it's in the Navajo Nation, the Rosebud Sioux Nation, Lakota, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all are wrestling with that same issue, but on different degrees and severities of it, right?
Yeah.
Russell Means said it best. I think he was testifying before Congress, or it might have been a Senate committee. He said he's been to, he's from the poorest county in America, right? Pine Ridge. And he's been to the richest county for Indian country, the Navajo Nation.
Yeah.
There is no difference.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's still true today, right? I mean, there's severing degrees, right? You go to some of like these rich tribes that have these monstrous casinos, and I'm like, good Lord, right? Like, I'm gonna donate there too, but like, it's just, you go to some of these other ones that just have a field of land and a few trailers, and that is their nation.
Yeah.
It's like, it's sobering. But then you start talking to these people, like, how can we help? How can we try to address getting you guys past these things? And it's like, well, we don't want an apology. Do you guys remember that video of that time the Pope came and several tribes gave an address?
Yeah.
I made a video. I took it down because it was so. I think I took it down.
Let's pull up the receipts.
Yeah,
right
pull it up here. It was so polarizing. But my whole premise on that was, you know what? We talk about all of this trauma. We hawk it to our federal partners. We hawk it to the world and say, this is what the church, this is what the world has done to us. This is what white people have done to us.
Mm.
And then when an authority, one of the sole authorities for, Catholic Church in the entire world comes by to just say, hey, I am acknowledging this. I am saying that these were crappy things that prior people within the church have done, and I am sorry. You don't get those kinds of apologies from modern world leaders these days.
Yeah.
If you do, it's because they're having to give up something, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, just take that apology as it is. And that was kind of the whole video of it. Everyone's like, no, never. And I was like, well, then you're essentially proving a point that I have on many tribal nations, is that on one hand, we're saying we need help, grab my hand. And then the other hand, the tribes are sitting on their hands saying, oh, help me, help me, help me. It's like, well, you need to meet halfway. You need to do something to some degree.
And I totally see how that like that came around, because I remember when that occurred, so many people were upset. I'm sorry, we kind of lost audio for a second, so the whole conversation we had, I'm not too sure how much we lost of it.
It's probably for a reason.
I think you might still have it on the video, Mal.
Yeah.
You should still have the.
So I should be able to
audio for the
recover
video.
that. But
Yeah.
I do totally agree that it was that olive branch that was reached out, and it's sad that there was a portion of Native America that took it back and tried to use it as a weapon to beat him up with it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're absolutely right. Like, we don't see modern day leaders accepting responsibility or taking that on.
I have two, I guess thoughts about it.
Yeah.
From the revolutionary standpoint, from the revolutionary side
Yeah.
of my native brain, I'm like, fuck him.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
The political science side of my brain agrees with you that you don't have a sit down like that just out of nowhere. So how do you broker the next level? That's where my brain goes to. And I think as natives, we have to have both mindsets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Because you can, I at least that's how I feel personally. There's people that are just like, well, it doesn't have anything to do with me or my kids, and I'm just not gonna think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they go on their lives living.
Yeah.
But that's the balance, right? That's the balance of that is just a stepping stone. First of all, it's the acknowledgement that people wanted. When they got it, they're like, okay, that's not enough. It's like, well, okay, now we're getting somewhere. It's not the acknowledgement you want. What else do you want, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not at that table, if you're not there to offer solutions, and this is even in the work that I've done, right, as far as being like sort of like a liaison for tribal nations or tribal interests in DC, that's always been the issue. Every single tribal representative will be up there complaining at the table saying, this is what is wrong. No one's helping us. There's no funds, no money. People are, this. But the tribal officials don't realize that the door has been opened, the table has been set, and the feds are sitting there saying, we understand. That's why we're here. But what are the solutions? What are you offering us? And they're like, oh, well, you guys should fix it. It's like, you really want the federal government to fix it?
Yeah.
No, you need to bring solutions. You need to bring ideas to the feds in order to fix the
We
problem.
we have our sovereignty, and you hear people say it. We're sovereign. We're sovereign. We're sovereign. Well, then act like it.
Yeah.
Like, you're a tribal official. Act like it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Act like it.
Honestly.
Like, pull yourself up and act like it.
Yeah.
Quit being corrupt. Quit having this nepotism, and put the right people in the job that have gone to school to do it. Quit putting your nephew, who has no sense of education. I mean, I'm so angry about the situation.
You see my video, huh?
Yeah, because it's like, but that's the problem with Native America, and at the same time, it makes me more mad because that's the way the federal government wants it.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't you people realize, Native people, don't you realize that that's what they want? They want you to show up at the table without your papers. They want you to show up on Indian time late. They want you to show up because then they can go back and be like, don't give these people anything. They can't keep their shit together.
Honestly. And that's one of the most frustrating things, right? When you are live streaming, tribal councils or these meetings of different tribes around and they're fighting, they'll criticize me because I'm calling them out for it. But It's free media. It's on YouTube. The feds surf these things every day.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
gonna see it anyways.
Yeah.
So when you act like a circus, like, what does that show? That just shows that we cannot even come to a consensus on how to just govern, right? And that's one of my frustrations is like, you have all of these young minds of native people who would love to do good for their tribes.
Yeah.
Who would want to come back. There's no infrastructure. There's nothing there to anchor these students to make sure that they are going to be successful on day one of coming back after they've gotten their degree.
Yeah.
Because why? In my video, I stated it. It doesn't matter that you have a degree. All they care about is experience now. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I thought that's the whole reason of getting a degree, right?
Yeah.
Is to substitute for some of that experience. It's like, no. We need 1 billion years for you to be a supervisor. It's like, oh, good God, like I don't have that. I have, law degree, but I don't know how to supervise.
And you're like, show me on paper who has that.
Yeah.
Who has that?
Yeah.
Who has these credentials?
And it's just the same people, and that's the circle of accountability on a lot of these tribal governments. Let me just say that there's a lot of good people, a lot of good fresh minds that are trying to do good, that have been elected, but they can't make that change because it's either their council's not letting them, their president or chief are not letting them. It's just they're gridlocked. But then you have the gatekeepers again of people that are not allowing and making it a conducive environment for young native people to be successful for their tribes. And guess what? They walk out, they leave, like I'm doing, right? I'm leaving my tribe because I know I've already seen the roof of where I can be in my tribe. I can't do anything. I think my skills and what I want to do for my people, for people in general, is better served elsewhere.
And I think that's the inspiring thing is that we like I went through UNM. I went through UNM, got my degree in fine art, and originally when I had the dream of going to school and getting out, my dream was to open up a theater in either Gallup or Window Rock. And as time came along, I just realized that I needed to have the capital to put behind that to try to do all of that.
Yeah.
And personally, I feel like Native Americans have a natural knack for the arts, whether it's smithing, pottery, fine art, doing portrayals. I mean, like you go around. Native people are hilarious. They have the craziest, driest humor, some of the most darkest humor that is hilarious, that if you even were able to teach them okay, this is how you go step by step and write a movie script. We'd have some of the greatest storytelling ever, and we do have some of the greatest storytellers, but we get caught up in the falling through the cracks. We have so many native storytellers, artists, people falling through the cracks because the infrastructure, the politics, the outlet isn't there. And they're more interested in just trying to get to the next paycheck, the economical survival, trying to obtain economical survival. And then you see it reflected in things like the infrastructure to purchase gas, simple things like that, purchasing your foods, and those kinds of things, and how much, we've talked about, even what if Elon Musk opened up a solar farm in on the res and was able to team up with the Native Americans to try to lease out some of their land for him to build a solar farm, and therefore suddenly now the Native Americans are providing power to their own communities and things like that. Suddenly you have the infrastructure for all that to start to build up, but instead we're fighting over funds. We're fighting over the COVID relief funds and those kinds of things. And it's the same thing that we've been doing for generations now. Our grandparents' generation, their grandparents' generation, trying to figure out the whole situation.
It's interesting that you said a word that literally like defines Native America's politics and its gridlock.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel like it reeks like the counterintelligence program that they saw in the 60s, where like it's people purposely put into positions just to cause things to go smoothly. You're like, how many? We all sit here and we all agree that the system is broken on tribal lands.
We all point to the issue. Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
Can it never get off the ground?
And that's always been, see, in my work, right, I've always been an advocate for tribal sovereignty and tribal programs. And we all know the issues. We all know what's plaguing Indian country across the nation, right? Substance abuse, alcoholism, domestic violence, the MMIP issues, right?
Yeah.
All of these things. And we say, well, what's going on? Oh, it's the federal government. Well, hold on. Let's seriously, let's step back. Let's be honest with ourselves, every single one of us. And I think that honesty, that come to Jesus moment everyone's not having with themselves, that is part of the problem. Because let's just, without having to throw anyone under the bridge with my tribe, right? We have a lot of, substance abuse issues, alcoholism, right? I've lost my dad and my brother to those kinds of things, right? In the past 10, 12 years. We all know there's an issue with it. It destroys families. So what's the solution? Everyone says, oh, well, we need rehab centers. We need drug rehabilitation. We need to offer services. And the key word, the bingo word is services. No one knows. No one can really define what services are,
Yeah.
They'll just say, oh, wraparound services. Like, you're just giving an excuse as to, you're pointing to a solution that no one can actually attain. What Indian country needs is the most robust. If we're gonna hawk over $1 billion to other countries, and $100 billion.
Yeah.
Let's do the same thing. If we're gonna go into debt, if we're gonna spend $1 billion of ARPA money that's been sitting there, let's just go into debt. Let's actually build so many rehabilitation centers. Let's build sub-police stations. Let's build an academy. Let's build infrastructure that we can actually, on day one, address these issues immediately.
Yeah.
We don't need to be building, more casinos. We don't need to be building, hotels and things like that you would see a return a decade later. Like, if you actually wanted to address the issue, let's address those issues that are having a substantive impact on Native American families today, right now, as we're speaking. I can guarantee you something's happening, but we don't have the resources to address it.
And that reminds me, like, of the thing that's happening now, and over the past, I think it just started this year, where there was a group of people, I believe in Arizona, who were coming out to Albuquerque and surrounding areas, and what they do is they'd find Native Americans on the street who were homeless,
down and
or
out.
Is that
down
the
and
one they
out.
take to Phoenix?
Yeah.
So,
And
the Navajo Nation created Operation Bridge to combat that.
Yeah.
And thus far it has been successful. And I have to shout out Attorney General Ethel Branch for the Navajo Nation, because, she's been instrumental in getting a lot of those. It's not even Navajos. It's other Native Americans from different tribes, and connecting them back to, let's get them back to their families. The problem, and here's the thing that people don't understand. Some of these families don't want this family member coming back because they've caused disharmony.
Or they're violent.
Yes,
or,
they've done these
there's
things.
issues.
So again, it goes back to, well, what is the solution? It's just not a simple answer, but everyone always says, oh, we need land back. What is that going to do, right? What is honestly, what is that going to do? Like, oh, so we can heal. It's like, currently, when you take a survey of all the tribes right now, we all have some land to some degree.
Yeah.
What are they doing with it?
Yeah. That's
How
the
is it
big
being
question.
maintained, right? And you say you want more land? And that's a controversial thing for us Native Americans to say. I think, yes, down the road, yes, let's explore that idea. But first of all, as Native American people, let's get our shit together, honestly. Because we can't stand in front of the feds and say that we want this when we can't even figure out our own selves.
I'm sorry, but I also think, though, that the idea of saying land back is that whole... It's not just a physical give me my land back. It's a mental process of get your shit together. Like, if you want your land back, then get your shit together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you come to the table, be ready to go through with what you want,
And I think that's kind of been the issue with Native American tribes as it is because when we do end up in a situation where there's a potential for conversation in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't. We're used to somebody else fixing it for us.
Yeah.
And
then we're ostracized because we're urban natives. And
Yeah.
What do we say to people who are living on the res? Like, oh, you can speak for us. You're not even from here. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just all of the complexities of all of these issues. It's just like there's no one simple answer.
No.
And yeah, I get that honestly because I've had that discussion with people. It's like it's not just that land back. But I've met so many people that are literal in just wanting land back. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that does not fix anything.
Yeah.
It creates more problems.
Yeah.
because then you have to spread yourself even thinner to even cover it.
Yeah, no, you have to invest more into your parks or rec services, which
Yeah.
they don't really have anything. I mean, some tribes don't even have their own, courthouses.
And see,
Yeah.
I think that's where my idea of mental healing comes into
definitely.
play because you can't lead anybody if you yourself are battle damaged. You know what I'm
no,
saying?
Yeah.
If
definitely.
you have PTSD and you have trauma, how are you going to lead your family?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to inflict that same mindset, that generational trauma onto the next and onto the next and onto the next.
Whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you see it represented in the stories that we've heard from plenty of people who
We see it in our own family.
Yeah.
I see my grandfather was in the military, and that way of raising, that's how he was taught. He was, off the reservation, and that was the way he was trained to think. And when he
Yeah.
came back, that's how he raised his household. And it's like that. And, before then it was boarding school.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
he just
yeah.
went from boarding school into the military, and that was just his way of thinking.
Yeah.
And those same character traits and flaws and, being in that type of environment and then raising kids,
Yeah.
of course he inflicted that type of trauma
Yeah.
on our parents. And, I tell people our parents did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I think that's the first step of realizing, you're mentally messed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? How do you fix yourself so the generational curses can die with you?
Yeah, on how to break that cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
because I guess it's been well documented now for people to see in what was it, Northern Canada, when they were doing all the boarding schools, the Christian boarding schools.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting that now we're having those conversations, especially with the newer movement of uncovering the mass child
yeah,
graves and things
definitely.
like that.
Yeah.
And then at the same time you're having, like, again, the storytellers are coming out and they're
Yeah.
being able to share the stories of, like, and you get good stories and you get bad stories, which reminds me of, like, I read the story of Jim Thorpe
Okay.
and how what was it called? It was like the Carlisle football program and Jim Thorpe. I can't remember the name of the book, but basically it talked about how he was able to get himself out of that situation by
Yeah.
playing football and going off to the Olympics and doing great and awesome things, doing playing baseball and all of that, and seeing how he was able to take that situation and turn it around for the love of football and how that positively affected his life. And as Native Americans, like, we look up to the ones who made it out, basically, like the ones who made it out.
Yeah.
Jim Thorpe, Billy Mills, what was the other one? Mariah Tall Chief, the first prima ballerina dancer.
Was there a golfer too?
Yeah, I feel like there is one. I can't remember.
There was like a golf guy. I don't know. I know there's a golf guy.
But that's the thing, is, like, we look up to
Are
them.
you talking about No Top Begay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
See?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we all didn't know. See?
Yeah.
But I mean, we knew of them, and we've like shared. Like, I remember my grandpa on the Kiowa side telling us stories of, like, Jim Thorpe, and, like, he was the greatest American ever to live, and,
Yeah.
That kind of stories. But out of that, you have these guys live that, but then also you have the other people the other children who are buried in a mass grave outside Carlisle. And so it's like, yes, we praise Jim Thorpe, but how many other parents, like just even hearing how like the situation occurred, having somebody like church officials come up to your house in the middle of the day and going, give me your children. Like, oh no, I don't want to give you my children. And they're like, well, if you don't give me your children, I'm going to come back with CPS and they're going to remove them from your house because you are living in a subpar place. And then them going, no. And then all of a sudden you have police officers, sheriffs coming out, grabbing the kids, throwing them back of the truck and driving them off to boarding school. And then you have others who are like, you know what? Our world is changing. I need you to go out and change with the world. And we see that nowadays. Like I paid for all of my schooling through the Navajo Nation and paying and getting scholarships. And I feel like if you're going to go to school to inspire change, to take back what you learn to your home, to your reservation, you shouldn't have to pay for it.
They stopped paying halfway for me, so good for you.
See, and that's what's funny. I'm Kiowa. I'm registered with the Kiowa tribe, and they literally, like, I wrote them a letter like, hi, I'm ready to do my school funding, yada yada yada, and they sent me a letter. We don't have any funds at all. Sorry, bro.
Didn't they buy a school bus?
Yeah, they bought like a school bus. And, like all. Yeah.
So one of the things that people don't realize on certain tribes, like, yes, the feds will give grants, the feds will give funding, right? But sometimes it depends on the agency, the department. These funds have a specific use, right? And it's so red taped. And that's the part of what I was trying to do in DC, is to peel off some of this red tape, like what Trump was trying to do. Cut the crap, right? It shouldn't be hard to do what is just right. And that's what some of these fundings, you have these impossible tasks. Like, oh, you want to build a new BIA school? Perfect. We're going to give you $100, bazillion dollars. But you need to build it in one day, and you got to fill out this encyclopedia of checklists. It's like, it's impossible, right, to do those things. On the other hand, again, it falls back to the tribes. You have the tribes that are just stuck. They don't know how to allocate. They don't know how to move forward, right? If it was really important as they said it was, and this is sensitive, right? And this is I'm safe here, right, to say certain things.
Say whatever you want.
Where's the door? COVID was devastating for a lot of people. I know some people that have, unfortunately, right? But tribal leaders throughout that entire time were saying how important it was. You needed to wash your hands. You needed to take precautions. You needed to do this, and we needed the funding to combat this. We need funding because a lot of places don't have water. They were all over social media and TV, NBC, everywhere.
Yeah.
How many years later, since the pandemic is over, how long since the pandemic is over, is all of that money still sitting in tribal coffers today? If it was that important, why is it still sitting there today?
Well, in fact, I remember they what was it, last year? I think it was last year. If you were registered with the Navajos, they had sent it out that if you need COVID relief funds, like
the relief checks?
Relief checks. Almost 2 years after, right? 2 years after it started, that they were like, and the rumor is that the government had allocated that money towards them to help their community. And instead the tribes pocketed it, held on to it, didn't know what to do with it, did whatever, they wanted, and then all of a sudden the government came along and was like, hey, so can we see the receipt? And they were like, oh, yeah, hey, everyone, if you have a CIB, send it to us, and we'll send you some money. And I mean, I just bought a house, so it was very helpful.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's very nice.
Got some Indian
Yeah,
land
I
back.
think there's
But
a lot of mystery behind like what happens to the funds that come to our governments.
Uh-huh.
But
I
yeah,
think, at least from the standpoint of the people who are not involved directly. You know what I'm saying? Now you can tell me, yes, they couldn't use these funds because of X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
and all of the barriers, but they're not always transparent, I feel like, to the general population.
No, definitely. If you saw my video where I criticized that exact same thing, the cycle of accountability, right? It's not there for a lot of these tribes. Transparency is not there, and they'll go on their election saying, "Oh, we need transparency," but when it comes to council sessions, they'll block out the comments, or they'll mute out certain sessions. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what's being talked about? What's going on? And it's like, oh, well, we can't have regular people recording. We just need people that, if I can't control what's being sent out
Yeah.
from council chambers, we can't have you in here. It's like, well, that's not being accountable.
I mean,
That's like a breeding ground for you being shady. You know what I mean?
I mean, what are they discussing? The nuclear launch codes?
Well, that's what I mean. I'm like, if you're going to be discussing something important, I don't know. For me, build a Starbucks. Surprise me, right? But,
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not.
Oh, they
that.
got their Panda Express. What was it, like 4 years ago? 5 years ago?
Where?
Gallup, I think. Gallup finally got their Panda Express.
We're going to Gallup after this.
Yeah. we're still on our need to do our trip to go to Sizzler if it's still out there.
Yeah, well, I did. The salad bar is divine. A mountain of salad, salmonella, whatever. I chance it. But,
Yeah.
it's because the city market in Shiprock used to have a salad bar. That was what that city market was known for. The salad bar, city market. Buy back the bashes in Shiprock and put a damn salad bar back in there. Good God. But now there's a Starbucks in that bashes in Shiprock. But I'm not complaining too much. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I going back to that, I just think when it comes to our indigenous governments, I feel like there is a lot of red tape on our own side.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like you said, there's not a whole lot of working together, it feels like, within that. And it seems like there's always just infighting. And so funds become available or opportunities become available, and we don't seize it because we can't agree on anything.
Yeah.
And it's gross because it just leaves the people out in the dark. You know what I'm saying? We're not getting the things built. We're not getting electricity. We're not getting water where it needs to go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if it's just strictly because...
I'm sorry, El, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you go ahead.
Since you've been on the inside of these council meetings, let me just be blunt and ask you, what do they talk about the city Indians, the city Navajos? Is there any talk about them at all?
Well, so when tribal governments are talking about their tribal members, of course there's the effort, right? And I can't speak, directly on work product from my job because it was a tribal government job. But there's efforts. There are some people in tribal governments. Not everyone is bad. There are some really good people.
Yeah.
But it's just the bad ones that are trying to be virtuous that just outshine the good ones, the truly good ones. But there are efforts out there to try and extend certain kinds of benefits, make it easier for tribes to reconnect when it comes to language, when it comes to, I hate saying services, but services.
Yeah.
Out to the urban Navajos, urban natives. But there are some of them, right? And these are the select few that are just, when they're talking about their community, they're talking about just what reaches the border, what reaches their chapter or their community, their townhomes. And to be fair, that's who voted them in, right?
Yeah.
But it just comes off as being selfish. It's like, well, I guess it sounds like you don't honestly care about some of these people that are living off the reservation, but it only matters to you when you need their vote, and that's a tough reality for a lot of people to swallow.
So as a Native American man, I feel like for generations now, like there's our father instilled this idea into me that you have concentric rings around you, just like the tree. you got some concentric rings. There's the core of it. That's your family. That's who you take care of. Then you have, as you go about, there's the people that you care about further out. And it feels like our Native American governments have always had a very tight like core. And so they'll take care of the natives that they live with, that are in their community, and because that's where their headquarters is within their community. And like, I'm registered with the Crown Point, and the only time I ever hear from them is when it's when they want to give out money or when they want to get me to vote for somebody. And other than that, I don't hear about them. They don't have like, I mean, I've had the same phone number for the past 20 years, but nobody's called me.
Like, hey, you out there? You're still okay?
Yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah, I mean, like the most interaction I have
Didn't
is
you know
maybe
you were
IHS.
the representative?
You were elected chief. You knew that, right?
I'm like, oh shoot!
Well,
Finally, I got elected for something.
You need to be registered in Shiprock and vote for me in the future. That's what you need. I'll help you. No, I get that. You know, and from my personal experience, right, living out in D.C., being so far away from my tribe, my homeland, right, and my own criticisms was with, you know, where I worked. You know, if you want an office, if you want a department to be successful, you have to support that, especially people who are sacrificing their family time and sacrificing their life to move across the country to fight for tribal interests. Because what happens to one tribe happens to the 570 plus tribes.
Yeah.
And what a lot of the smaller tribes don't realize, if they do something that is silly and they cause a legal ramification and it ends up in the Supreme Court, that's affecting not just them, that's affecting the Navajo Nation, the Cherokee Nation, all of these bigger tribes. So when I was out there, right, my whole thing was I wanted to be in these places to actually give a daily reminder, you know, of this is the reality of Native America, of Native American tribes. But I found myself scheduling meetings, taking notes, essentially being a glorified travel agent. I'm like, this is not what I signed up for, you know?
Yeah.
Anytime that I was in a room with, you know, the feds or someone from Congress, I was always sitting in the corner with, you know, the tribal leaders in the room, and they would be talking from things that we produce for them to talk about. And they didn't know what these issues were sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of them did. Some of them were passionate. Some of them were good. But most of the time, they're like, so this is what we're here to talk about. And it was kind of like dragged on, and I'm like, you only have 30 minutes with a congressperson sometimes, right? What can you get across and get an ask, and what can you get a commitment for?
Yeah.
Right? Actually get down to it, because they'll talk about it, and at the end of it, the photo ops. I'm like, to an extent, it just felt like my position in tribal government for that specific office was just, it was meaningless. It was, I felt like just a prop to be a prop. And you know, that's what I was like, you know, I have to walk away. I have to step back. And this is not a criticism of all tribal nations. Tribal nations, if they want to survive in modern America, there really needs to be a come to Jesus moment with every single, I'm using that right because I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
You know, you have to stop and think about, on a governmental level, on a tribal governmental level, how are you going to survive? Some tribes have less than 500 people.
Yeah.
10 years from now, are you still going to be there, right?
Yeah.
And if none of those conversations we're beyond conversations. If none of those actions are done, you're going to cease to exist.
Yeah,
and that's I mean, I hate to say it, but that's what they want. They want us to fizzle out.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, again, like, you know, there are some really good people in Congress, right, that are true advocates. But because the political game of being a Republican or a Democrat, they have to fall in line with their party. And that is the dirty thing that I dread about going into future politics, right? I have to play the game in order for me to actually have a seat in those rooms.
Yeah.
But I have to play it, right? That's an unfortunate reality. But again, if no one's taking the initiative to get their butts off the couch, stop playing their games, go down to the voting booth and actually vote to try and change something. Because I think it was like 80% of people will criticize Congress saying that it is ineffective, yet they're reelected 90% of the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is these same people that criticize on their social medias, the young kids, nothing's getting done. This is no. They never show up to the voting booth, or they vote for the same person because, oh, you know what? Oh, I'm not going to vote for that person because it's Trump, right? It's just like, how are you voting, right? And let me just
popularity.
say, let me just say this: like Trump, personally done some crappy things, politically done some good things, right? Not many Native Americans know that he signed in a few tribes that were fighting for recognition.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. He signed the ARPA funding for Navajo and many other tribes, right? He did some things. He was the first president on an executive level to establish Operation Lady Justice. No state government until that point started anything. No local community started that until President Trump did. Did it have money? No, but it was a first initial step on a federal level to recognize the MMIP issues going on.
So is that what it's in correspondent? Because this is I've never really heard about this, which is I feel like is a tragedy because at the same time because I don't know what
information gets sat on to keep the agenda of whatever political party is putting that information out to make them look how they want Trump to look. And I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter or I believe I'm just saying that you have to look past who's pushing this information or who's sitting on the information.
Yeah, the bells and whistles, everything. Because it depends on the media, and I think you guys spoke about this in your prior podcast of how you intake your media. If you're taking your news from TikTok, be careful. If you're taking your news from CNN, for me personally, be careful.
Yeah.
If you're taking your news from Fox, that's gospel. No, but you have to read behind these people who are writing these things because they have a political agenda. They have a political bias. They have their own, personalities to these things. I remember one article. It was like, this Supreme Court justice was appointed by President Trump. Did this, and I was like, you didn't have to put you didn't have to put President Trump's name in there, but it's just like it came from CNN. I was like, okay, well, there you go. If you were already gotten, I'm a little bit more conservative, and I have to be. And okay, let me just say this: I get criticized for being I'm not a true hard right person, right? I'm more of a moderate conservative because the truth of what we're all arguing about is in the middle, right?
Yeah.
It's somewhere in between where we're beating each other up over. I believe government is too big. I don't trust government. The last time government told us Native people, trust us, we'll take care of you. They took away the guns. There was a massacre.
Yeah.
People don't understand that, right? I believe in my right to bear arms. As a Native American, I have more of a right as a Native American than an American to have my guns to defend myself. And those are my somewhat conservative principles. That's what the thing my dad taught me of. This is our land. This is what we fought hard for, right? To be here, to be in existence. We're the only people that the United States government in all of history has never gotten rid of, right? Despite the U.S. government's official policy, BIA, right? Bureau of Indian Affairs, official policy to wipe out Native Americans.
Yeah.
We're still here.
And I think that's where I agree is in I guess Son of Picasso, the revolution is yes, we don't trust government, but we also in a way still rely on the machinery to work. But at the same time, we all have to meet in the middle. We all have to work together. And I think for me personally, that's been the big issue with the way that everything is. I mean, yes, do I want to get on my rant over they did this, they did this, they did this? Yes, I want to be able to do that. But at the same time, shaking my fist at the wall gets me nowhere.
Yeah, only the wall is going to see you shaking the fist. Nothing's going to happen,
I think that this next 2 years is going to define Native America for the next 15 years.
I believe that.
I see. I mean, I feel exactly the way you feel about with guns and being able to defend yourself and being a sovereign Native man. there's also other issues though that I don't agree with the Republican side. And so it's put me in an interesting position because I'm a registered Republican,
Yeah.
but I hate the options that I'm given.
Yeah.
And I hate and so I hate the options that the Democrats have, and I don't agree with their
We
ethos
need to go get a
either.
drink or something. I didn't know you were Republican. I
And-
thought there was something
and-
good on the side.
So I'm stuck in this,
Yeah.
and I'm not a libertarian.
Yeah.
So I'm forced to just go against these party lines and cross in between, and it is bullshit though to have
Yeah.
Trump call people that bailed out of the Republican Party rhinos,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I have these certain, I guess, ideologies that I agree with,
Mhm.
but then it ends at a certain point.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go past that line in the sand.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I think here's the thing. I think a lot of people who, again, if they're honest with themselves, everyone feels like that. But because we're polarized by media and by communities and young kids who really don't go to a voting booth anyways are the loudest to criticize us. You're a bigot. You're this. You're this. You're this. Everyone is not blue or red.
Yeah.
There's a gray area where a lot of us are. It's just we're either we don't want the drama, we don't want to get we don't want to get canceled these days. God forbid, right?
Yeah.
I have to say that where my line in the sand is I am 100% about Native liberation.
Mm.
And if those ideologies don't align with that, then I don't want to be a part of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's where my opinion of the border crisis was just like, this is a defining moment in the Republican Party's history. I don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I can't be a part of this. There were other moments where with the Dakota pipeline, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being energy independent. And so you're sitting there and you're like, well, you've developed this, and it's interesting. You said playing the game,
Yeah.
right? Politically. And Native liberation won't come about until we all individually learn to play the game.
Yeah.
And you want to call it the white man's game, you want to call it the political game, whatever game you want
Yeah.
to call it, as long as you recognize that there's a level of dual consciousness that has to take place in each Native American's mind, we will not be liberated.
Yeah. It's
And-
like when you get a game, you have to read the rules on how to play that game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also tell young natives, your liberation will not come from your tribal governments.
Mhm.
Your tribal governments are broken.
Yeah.
And there are good people there that
Yeah.
are fighting the good fight, that are on the front lines.
Yeah.
But in order to get past your own trauma, your
Yeah.
own bullshit,
Yeah.
you have to liberate yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can't get to that point, then you're still going to be blaming the white man for your problems.
Yeah.
You're still going to turn to the bottle to escape your reality.
Yeah.
Those are the problems. And I guess that's where my view of Native politics ends, because I see that liberation won't come from our tribal governments.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is there somebody in Native America that's ready to be our Martin Luther King?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
to tell us like don't go to casinos anymore.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
take the white man's money and let's put it in our pockets and spend that money in Native communities.
Do you know what the biggest hypocritical thing that I've seen is that a lot of these tribal governments will put their casinos right in the middle of their tribal reservation.
Yeah.
Who goes there? They're tribal members, right?
Yeah.
It's just like you're paying these people that then you're recouping the money in their own casinos. It's like, no, if
Yeah.
you want to do it,
And-
like, put it somewhere.
And it's hard because you're like, well, we see from time and time again when Native men step up to do that, they get squashed
yeah.
right
Yeah.
in the middle. You get compromised.
Yeah.
You get receipts pulled up on you from 25 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, at a certain point, who's blameless enough to take on
Well,
this?
everyone becomes so pious and holier than thou. It happened to me when that video of me criticizing tribal nations on their governance and the gatekeeping and all of that stuff, right?
Mhm.
I got so criticized, and I remember a comment that bothered me. It just bothered me throughout the day. He was like, "You shouldn't speak down to your elders. You shouldn't be speaking like that.
Oh,
You're
I
being
hate that.
disrespectful." I'm like, first of all, you have to give respect in order to get it, right?
Mhm.
And just yes, there's a certain level that you have to afford to our elders because there are elders.
Mhm.
However, I've been abused by elders. I have been, talked down to, and I've been talked down to and threatened by my own tribal elders for even speaking out
Yeah.
on things. It's like, no, to an extent, yes, but no.
Mhm.
This is the same mentality that's going to keep Native Americans, paralyzed for generations to come. And down that road, we're going to lose a few tribes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I got into it with a few elders, and all I gotta say is it was a teachable moment for you.
Yeah.
And you don't like learning.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not my
honestly,
fault that
yeah,
you don't
no,
want to
yeah.
learn. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, like for me personally, confrontation is not my strong suit. I mean, I more recently I came into a confrontation with somebody that I work with, and over something I said, and it wasn't necessarily bad.
Yeah.
And after a lot of self-reflection, I was like, there wasn't anything that I said bad, but it was a situation where what they perceived and construed in their own mind about what I said affected their reaction. And in my own mind, like I speak through rose-colored glasses, because I'm like, if A, B, and C all work out, then we can take care of D and E and G and F. And like, if we're able to bypass our own human biases, we can take care of one another so much better. And I didn't say it as clearly as that, but what they took offense to it, and they got all upset, and then all of a sudden I'm backpedaling, and I'm like, no, look, like, I say random stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I say, and I'm like trying to justify by being self-deprecating of like, look, don't get angry at me. Like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. This is what I'm saying. This is the idea that I have. And
They'll take offense.
They're still taking offense to it. And eventually it kind of just like stopped and settled. And I was like, okay, cool. Whatever. I backed off. I left. And then about 2 hours later, I'm like, it's still with me, because I'm like, dude, like, what did I say? Like, am I going to get fired? Am I going to get canceled? Am I going to, like, did I really say anything that was that, like, bad? And being a person who's, like, completely introspective, retrospective, I was like, no, I didn't say anything wrong. And I had to give myself, like, license to be like, no, I'm okay.
You're okay. You're good.
I'm good.
You're drawing breath every day. You're okay.
Yeah. And after that, like, I waited, because I was like, maybe there's going to be fallout. Like, all of a sudden I'm getting fired or having to go to HR or something. And I still see that person every day. It's been like a few months, and I'm like, I think we're okay. Like, I think they understood. They were able to figure out, like, what I was saying. I feel like I was able to communicate that across, because doing the podcast, doing a show, and putting ideas and beliefs and crazy jokes and whatever else we do out there for people's entertainment, for people to consume
and to stew on it,
brought down that veil of, I better not say that.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can ask Son of Picasso, me, Elliot, we've gotten more vocal about our ideas, our opinions, and people don't like that, because it causes them to question, like, well, maybe I do have a little white guilt, or maybe,
Maybe native garments shouldn't be made overseas and sold as native garments.
No, we need mass produced. No, I'm kidding. I finished that, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, what are you talking best of show? I was looking, I was like, yeah, I'd mass produce that. What are you talking about? You gotta make some money,
And I think that's where this whole setup has been personally for us, I feel like it's more beneficial for us because we've said it before. It's like therapy.
Yeah.
Like being able to come here,
You have an
communicate. Yeah. And therefore, I'm not as cautious or wary about what I'm saying. Like, I had a conversation with my grandpa the other day, and he's very Republican, very CNN.
I want to meet him.
And and he's like, well, this is an issue and this is an issue, and I'm like, yeah, grandpa. His whole thing was like immigrants and blah blah blah, immigrants, very this is wrong and blah blah blah. And I was like, grandpa, we still haven't gotten rid of the first immigrants, so I don't know how we're gonna handle that. And he was like,
Go to bed.
Go to bed. I mean, and that was the thing, is like I was expecting him maybe to get like upset and like start coming after me or like that kind of a thing. But instead I saw him like take a moment and like
That's exactly.
Well, gun policy, and I'm like, okay,
yes, yeah. No, well, that's the thing I always talk about is like that come to Jesus moment. If we can't we know the issues. If we cannot be honest with ourselves and say that, hey, maybe I'm wrong about this.
Yeah.
Maybe I am wrong about this. Maybe I should have listened. Maybe I shouldn't have snapped. Maybe I shouldn't have fired someone because I got offended. Right? God forbid. Maybe I am wrong. It's not an exercise of shame. It's not an exercise of you being weak.
Yeah.
It's wisdom. That's wisdom working within your mind of like, maybe there's a solution, and I'm just too proud to put my ego aside. Right?
It's kind of funny you bring that up. So, speaking about this family member who got offended by what I said, I had to write my mom this diatribe of why I was in the wrong, and I looked at my kids and I told them, I was like, I'm your dad. In 15 years, if what I'm saying and what I'm thinking isn't updated and what society believes in, like, your job is to tell me that.
Yeah.
And my job is to listen.
Yeah.
My job is to update with the things that are going on in the world and not be stuck in 1950.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be able to accept it. And my job is to not be mad about it.
Yeah.
Like, no, granddad, you can't say that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, no.
My day.
Yeah, they're called Asian Americans. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like
soda was 5 cents.
Yeah, and like I'm like,
can't say that now.
And that's my job is to listen.
Yeah, yeah.
And to not be so caught up in being an elder that I can't listen to you and take you and have respect for you even loving me enough to even say something to me,
which is like why like for me, so going back to the beginning of our show, we talked on what was it, Killers of the Flower Moon, the movie. In the book there was the person, the leader, the chief for their tribe. And he was able to look at the situation, read the writing on the wall that like, this is what's going to happen. I'm able to be introspective enough to be like, yes, my ways of, how I originally lived are not the ways we're living anymore. We need to make a change. And there was, I wish I remembered everyone's name, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but he ended up getting one of the members from the tribe who actually went to law school during that time and was able to secure the mineral rights to the land that they were living on. And he was like, on top of everything, that's okay. We know they're eventually going to come for it. Let's at least secure the mineral rights, because where they were living was like... wasn't the traditional, not a great place to live. Like it was dry, arid, whatever, not great. Well, then suddenly they find oil, and suddenly he's like, oh, okay, this is great. Suddenly that money is able to go back into the tribe, and therefore the people became wealthy landowners after that. And they were able to live by a higher means than was expected by the government, because they expected him to just go off and die. cold and lonely on a scrap of land.
Yeah.
And instead, they were like, we've got oil. All right, cool. So then they had the oil boom and everything.
Yeah.
And then the government was like, well, now we got to implement restrictions. We can't have these savages running around living better than us. So we got to implement all these other things.
Yeah.
And which eventually took apart that tribe and picked and allowed vultures and rats to come in to feast on the Native Americans, which is how, all of that occurred. And so, like, us being who we are, we've all heard some form of version of this story, whether it's in the North America, South America, whether it's the northern tribes or the southern tribes. We've all have an understanding, and that is a story that, like, we've carried.
Yeah.
Anytime a native starts to step up, government comes in and knocks your feet out from under you.
Yeah.
Anytime you go to the Olympics, they steal your shoes.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's a big thing with Native Americans is we don't trust government. Like you said, we don't trust them to take away our weapons. We don't trust them when they take away our weapons. We don't trust them when they say, trust us.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's there's healthy skepticism to have, because we see that with so many other people groups too. Like World War II, Japan attacks. Nobody expected all the American Japanese to be carted off into concentration camps.
Yeah.
And what happened? They had them all over the place. They even had some here, I believe, in New Mexico.
Artesia,
Yeah, in Artesia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And the stories that you heard from that were awful.
Yeah.
And growing up, because I love history, love reading about it, you hear these stories, and for me, I try to hide it because I'm a man.
Yeah.
But like I start shedding tears, I'm like, that's a rough story, man.
These damn onions.
Yeah, somebody's cutting onions in here.
Is the fry bread ready?
Yeah. But I feel like that's a shared experience with many people. And now that I'm a father, it's just like it's been turned up to 11, because now I'm like I can't imagine what would I do if like suddenly a government official came up and was like, give me your child, and I'd be like, no, like you're not gonna take my children.
Yeah.
Or somebody coming up and going, hey, we need you to relocate, we're taking over your house and everything, and having to do those things, and those are a part of our history, and being able to recognize that, learn from that, fosters a healthy skepticism for anyone that tells you trust me.
Yeah, no, it helps fuel the accountability cycle of you need to hold these people that you elect accountable.
Yeah.
And I fear the day that I go into politics, but like it's a calling, for me to at least just try at least once, right? And if I can win just the initial trust for people just to listen to me, just that. At least you have 2 years or whatever I run for, 4 years, 2 years or 4 years, and then you can just vote me out. But until that point, I swear to you, I will do my very best to work hard, right? And if I don't achieve what I hope to set out to, right, set real expectations. If I don't achieve them, hey, I better see you at that ballot box, whether you vote for me or not, right? But like, I definitely see that all the time. Is like, people will be the first to criticize and say that you're wrong.
See,
you're
and
stupid,
that's
and
what I
stuff.
hate about sometimes is that criticism, because you're like, a lot of people don't realize that it would take for you to implement your policy is going to take longer than that time of office to even see it play out.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're like, there's a lot of people that are given the shot and they don't make it happen right away, and they're like, oh no, get him out of here.
And
you
the
know
sole
what I mean?
and the sole decision's not up to you, because if you are a representative, and that's kind of the office I've been pondering, right? A representative office. I cannot unilaterally make the changes that I want to. What I can do is that I have a loud mouth, a big, influential following, and I can tell a good story. And what I can do is stand in front of a national audience or a statewide audience and say, hey, this is the bullshit. This is what's going on. This is what's really going on that many people are not being privy to. No one's telling them these things. If they are, they're turning a blind eye, and that's on them. But at least I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, on that note, we generally like to ask the question of like, I mean, just because we were talking about government and, you know, their roles, what they should be doing, what can we as the general population of these governments, you know, do to, I guess, continue to help make sure there is transparency, accountability, you know, things that you just talked about. Obviously, right, going out and voting is probably number one on your list, maybe.
Yeah, of
But
course.
what are some other things that you would recommend people should be doing so we can see some change in these in our governments?
Yeah, so in my tribe's election, right, the Navajo Nation, you saw what I think it was like 100,000 people vote in the election, right, for the presidential election. But you look down into the numbers of who actually voted for council delegates. Those numbers don't even go anywhere near to how many people voted in the presidential election, as far who voted for president. Where are those people? What people don't realize is that the true authority in tribal governments, most of the time, depending on the tribe, is their council, is their legislative body. Your president or chief can only do what is granted by that council. So they're like, oh, we elected a president. You said you were going to fix this. Well, he can't unilaterally do something. He can't spend something because the money is controlled by council. So it's just like people need to realize that. One of the things I see is when all of these meetings happen, if it's like a council session, there's only 200 people watching. I'm like, I know there's more than 200 people that are out on their social medias criticizing these people every single day. Where are you? Oh, I'm working. No, you're not. I did a little investigation. You sit at home. I see your Facebooks all the time. You're posting all the time.
It's like the equivalent of somebody having a opinion on the game and they're not watching the game.
Honestly,
they're like, yeah.
They're just there to just say something, and it's like, come on. You know, there needs to be a movement of a younger generation. If we are young natives wanting to affect good changes for our tribes, we also need to do our part. You know, cut the BS. Right? We at some point get off of our hands from where we're sitting on and get up and move and do something. If it, you know, one of the biggest criticisms, and people are like, have you even voted? It's like, yeah, I do vote often. I've been voting since I was 18. You know. Get to the voting box, but also be at those sessions, be at those closed door meetings, or, you know, actually try to ask questions. Many people, there's an office I'm going to run for, and I know I'm going to get this question of what makes you qualified. Well, first of all, if you want a career politician, that is the biggest mistake. Call it the founding fathers, call it the government, never anticipated career politicians. There's never a school for it, but again, the population is complacent and like, oh yeah, I trust that person. This person has been in Congress and been in government for 40 plus years, but now they're gonna fix it.
And when they came in, they were only worth 100,000, and now they're worth
multi-millionaires. It's like, how can I know what the salary is for a Congress person? It's 174,000. How do you get from that to now having a net worth of over $20 million? And it's just, it blows my mind.
Insider trading.
Yeah, it's like, it blows my mind that people will criticize. And that's what I'm like, if I run, someone's going to be like, what makes you qualified? I have no bad habits when it comes to being anything what resembles a politician. If you want someone that knows how to play the game and, you know, knows the cronies and all those things, I'm not that person. You know, I stood in bread lines. I stood in lines that you had to hold your shame just to go and pawn something to have money to do something, right? Those are the people that should be serving in these elected offices. But again, you have people that are, lawyers, who are legally educated. I'm the exception, but I mean, but it's just, you know, it's just, you have
people, not me.
Or business owners. Like, I got criticized. Well, why don't you create a business and hire natives? I don't know business. I don't know, restaurants and all of these things. Can't create jewelry. Like, you know, I can create Legos, but I can't do those things. So I get criticized on these things. But what I do know is I do know people. and I have a knack for policy, and I have a knack for seeing all of these things and being hyper perceptive enough to know the opposite side of what's going on, right? And I've always gotten in trouble as a kid of like, you shouldn't be asking those questions. Well, why is it wrong to ask why?
Yeah.
So for a younger generation, they need to just take that initiative, right? To be more involved, if it's in your local government, if it's here at state or city or tribal level, do that. The big issues that everyone complains about, abortion, healthcare, all those things, those are not going to be simple solutions.
Yeah.
Those are just ways to throw you off, get you riled up and pissed off, and at the end of the day, vote with whatever party is there. Stop with that noise. Stop. Look at who you're going to vote for.
Oh yeah, you can't vote with special interest, like, or you're polarized, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that the young people need to stop and just realize that. And again, I fear the day I run for office, but that's a reality that I need to adjust to as well, because you know, I have it a calling, right? You have a calling, whether you are a broadcaster, a jewelry, or a maker, or whatever you do. You don't have just a calling, an obligation to just yourself, to your family. You don't have that single obligation. You have an obligation to God or your creator or whatever it is that you adhere to do what you are born to do it well. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're a police officer, you do it because you have an obligation to do it.
Do it and do it well.
Yes.
I like it.
That's what's up.
Well said.
That's what's up.
That's awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
I know, it's been
so much of your life, man.
It's been
and your
dope having you on.
experiences.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, we'll probably have you on again sometime.
Yeah.
Some other time, but we'll have to catch up with you then, see how everything's going. Maybe we'll all have seen Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh yeah.
We'll have
Maybe we'll all have been to Sizzler.
Sizzler. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have to go visit Sizzler.
We'll do this over the parking lot in Sizzler and back.
From the salad bar.
We're here live from the salad bar.
Me crunching. Hold on.
But yeah, so as usual, everyone, make sure to follow us. Where can they find you?
So, what is my TikTok? So I do have a TikTok. It's Link Witty, or if not, my name is pretty simple, Lincoln Mark, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Lincoln, like the president? I'm like, yeah, like the president, like the one who you did good things for people.
Are you worried?
Matchmaking
Are you worried
proclamation.
about going into politics with the name Lincoln?
Lincoln did a lot of good things.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just stay out of the theaters.
If you saw my Instagram, I was at Ford Theater in D.C., so I was like, I'm not going to go in there. But no, yeah, I do have a following, and I have a link tree. So if anyone wants to follow in my journey of my complexities, of my opinions, of everything, like at the end of the day, I just want to help people, right?
Yeah.
It not like, I just want to help people and do, free education. No, I want to help people on a substantive level, on a day-to-day basis. What bothers you every single day? It's your pocketbook, right?
Yeah.
It's how your family is able to survive. Those things I want to help with. And I can only do that as someone that is in those rooms with elected officials saying, calling their bullshit, right? And that's what I hope to do coming into something, if I ever run for office, is I want you to give me the chance. I don't want your vote right then and there. I want you to just the chance to listen to me. And if you can get past that, now we're cooking with some grease. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now your fry bread
But
is
what
nice
about
and
another-
flat.
Got that bluebird, everything else. Yeah. All right. So be sure to check us out. At the moment, we do have a holiday T-shirt going out. It's the jack-o'-lantern, and yeah. See you guys on the flip side.
See you at the casino.
We're going right.
Sizzler. We're checking out the Sizzler.